All right. So I've been doing Bloody Jeopardy for 3 years now. And it's never easy, but that's never been my intention, right? I've never wanted it to be easy because it should be difficult. It's a testing environment. But today, it was bloodier than usual. Okay? So I want to talk about that. And for those of you who are watching on this, it's third period now. So let's talk about why I do Bloody Jeopardy. Because I talked about this with second period. So somebody said, Miss Davis, you just really like to torture us, don't you? And I laugh because it's not torture. I do, and I said the same thing. I do enjoy seeing you struggle because that's what you should do. You should not be like Pleasantville where there are no challenges. Because it's not realistic. The world is not without challenge, and the world is not without disappointment, and the world is not without failure. You need that. And as much as we in this environment here are here to, kind of cuddle you in our embraces of love, because I love you all, right? I do. All right. It still is important for us to still prepare you for those outside experiences. And I don't think that Bloody Jeopardy is that difficult. First of all, the questions are never that difficult. They're already questions that you might have experienced on a test. They're just not multiple choice, so you have to really prepare more because you have to remember, you have to think about it, you have to contemplate. The questions are never difficult. The process, the game is what's difficult for y'all. And I understand that. And that's why I designed it to be such. It's my creation. I designed it as such to be a game that would challenge you in the somewhat safe space of this school to handle the pressure, which, again, I don't feel like it's that much, but I do know that since I've been doing it, that it is pretty serious for y'all, right? Okay, and that's okay, because once again, I'm trying to get you to understand that, the world is challenging. Sometimes, like I said, I'm not going to use names because who knows where this video is going to wind up. This young man said, we were having a conversation, you may pass away today, but you're not going to pass away from this game. Right? Okay? It's not going to be because of this game. So have the experience of it as it's a learning experience, and you need to move on. You move on. Okay? It's a grade because all the things we do in here are graded. But if you are doing well in other things and other aspects of the classroom, you're not going to be hurt by it. But you should take it seriously because it is something that helps you grow. So first period, I'm trying to think back. First period, usual stress. They did fine. There were a couple of bloody points, meaning that someone was put on the list. That's usually the most bloodiest thing that I experience, when someone who is not on the list gets put on the list by somebody. Y'all know how that works. And I think in first period it was kind of accidental because there was no one to do it. It's like no one said, I'll take the question. So somebody had to go on the list. I don't think at the end of the day that person was hurt by it because I think they got off. Fine. Second period, I had to be very careful about names because I'm going to have a message in this one for those as well. So second period comes in, and that's where the whole conversation about stress came into and whether or not I was trying to torture y'all. So they kind of had that energy, and I always tell you, be careful about that energy. They came in with a lot of distress. And that class in particular, you guys know, that class in particular is pretty energetic as it is. A lot of different personalities in there. So my best way of summarizing what happened is that we had a regular Bloody Jeopardy session. There were a couple of situations where a person got put on the list because, again, there was no one else to put on the list. There wasn't anybody to call. Then they did some really nice things, very humanist things, where a couple of people did not put somebody on the list. They couldn't answer it, and they saw that no one else could answer it, so they didn't pass it. They just said, go ahead and put me on the list. It was sweet. There were like 3 people that did that. There were also a couple of people who did put someone on the list, and that's what started it. That's what started it, I think, at least in my view. Then it went and degraded into lying. Okay, so the lie is this, okay? So you are now going to be able to answer Pleasantville questions. That was the thing I added to the day. Okay, there are Pleasantville questions, but Pleasantville questions weren't on the study guide. So I included a twist that says, if you get a Pleasantville question or a question that's not on the study guide, then you can phone a friend. So you go quietly to that person after you decide you're going to do that, and you guys confer and decide what the answer is. So you have a choice, and you guys listen to this as the rules. You could answer it on your own and get a red chip, which is the highest, or you could phone a friend, get them to help you with the answer. You guys get it correctly. The original person gets a blue chip, and the person that helps gets a white chip. Okay? So that started that. So you, let's say you, and I'm not using names, you are the person that's going to help her. All right? So what happened was, in one situation, is that this person went and asked that person for help, and that person told them the wrong information. Okay? I think it might have been. Because this person that was up in the front that needed the help had done some things to other students in the sense of putting them on the list. So it was a little bit of a payback. So that started that level of it. What's the question?
What happens if, let's say, I don't know,
you don't go on the list?
Her.
Yeah.
Nobody goes on the list?
No. Okay, so you ask her for help. You get it wrong.
Yeah.
You're fine. Yeah. You're on the list.
Oh. No.
So the person who gave incorrect information was safe. The person who got the incorrect information went on the list. But, again, the person who went on the list, I believe, from my standing up here, had some interactions with some people by putting them on the list. So it was kind of like a group payback. So it kind of got that way. All right. Later, it continued to go, and there were some points that I was trying to make sure everybody was calm about. So we got the list. And so, at the end of the game, everybody gets an opportunity to get off the list. So there were several opportunities for people to get off the list, and there were some people who had multiple blacklist points, right? So when it came down to those people, it got a little frustrating because we have to go through quickly because we're at the end of the class, okay? So the last thing that kind of happened was a person who was asked the last question answered it correctly, I believe, and then the person that all this energy is kind of being directed at, and again, the person that the energy is directed at, that it wasn't just no reason. There was stuff going on. I was trying to manage it. This person said something inappropriate to that person. Okay? I won't repeat it. Now, at that point, it had to be stopped. So the game was over because it was a racial comment, and I had to stop, as I always do whenever that happens, to make sure that everyone understands that that kind of stuff is not tolerated. Okay? Now, the race direction was from a person of color to a white student. Okay? And when that happens, we stopped the game, and I expressed to everyone that it was over and that that was inappropriate and we weren't going to tolerate that. It wasn't part of the game. It's not. Right? But understanding that this whole idea of whether or not you put somebody on the list, whether or not you put yourself on the list, whether or not you give information that's incorrect in order to play the game is bloody Jeopardy, but it's also strategy because you're trying to win chips to get the game, right? So it is really up to you how you play the game. Like I said, the people who said, I'm just going to stay on the list on my own, that's their decision. If you point to someone because you know they have chips and you want to make sure they don't win, that's your decision. If you decide to not give the information when you say phone a friend, you pick the wrong friend. Right? And I said before we got started, make sure that when you ask the person to help you, that they know the answer, because if you get the wrong answer, you don't get points. Now, this is where we wound up at. Okay? Okay.